Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Marco Knaben. I'm the community manager for the Curitiba Connector. For those who never heard of us, the Connector is a network of spaces around the world dedicated to co-creation and co-innovation between Bosch and the ecosystem. We are present in 5 different locations: Chicago in the US, Guadalajara in Mexico, Stuttgart in Germany, Shanghai in China, and Curitiba in Brazil. This month of August, we celebrate 2 years in Brazil and in Latin America, and we are having a series of special events on mobility, AIoT, open innovation, entrepreneurship, and Industry 4.0. Today's event, we'd like to share with you some very interesting topics on open innovation. And when we think about this concept itself, is about 20 years old. So we have a definition that is very broad, and many companies have their own way to do it and with different results. But as being open is more than just sharing success stories, we wanted this discussion to be about what are the challenges to make it even more successful today as of 2021. So now we're having 3 colleagues from the most relevant open innovation initiatives at Bosch to share with us some very interesting insights. So I'm calling here Heike Langner, Bosch internal consultants on Outside In at Bosch, Veronica Brandt, Startup Harbour at Bosch, and Christian Hüttenheim, Director of Strategic Partnership and Co-Innovation at Robert Bosch Venture Capital. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us.
Hi,
Hello.
Marco.
Hello.
Hi. So, Heike, do you think you could share with us what's about your initiative and how it works?
Yes, sure. So first of all, thank you for this invitation and congratulations for your 2 years being as a connectory in Curitiba. So as Marco already said, I'm head of a department and it is an internal consultant at Bosch, and we consult all other departments from development and strategic departments in outside in. And the question now is, what is outside in? There are different things and thoughts about what outside in means. In our case, it means that there is any type of collaboration between Bosch, which is the internal side, and people from outside. That could be startups, that could be established companies, that could be enterprises, that could be even single persons, at least those people who are interested in innovation and doing that together with Bosch. And if I introduce myself, I very often say that I'm head of an, let's say, global working a partnership agency, because we are doing nothing else than a partnership agency. We try to bring together people from inside Bosch with people from outside Bosch. And for that, we have two, let's say, work streams. One is from the inside. So someone from inside says, I have a brand new idea. For example, I think that Bosch should enter the business of straight green bananas. And I know a lot about bananas, but I do not know about green and I do not know about straight. And I want to be on the market as soon as possible. And therefore, I need information from the market and the right partner. And then we start to find the partner who can do green or straight or even green straight bananas so that Bosch could establish this idea quite quickly on the market. That's the way from the inside to the outside. But there could also be the other way around. Somebody from the outside says, I have a good idea on, let's say, straight green bananas. And I think Bosch is the one to help me to scale my business. And then the people think, how do I approach Bosch? Because Bosch is big. And then it's our part because we offer the service to match the external idea with Bosch people from inside. And then we take up the idea, we think of, well, could that fit to Bosch? In case of straight green bananas, we have to think about that, whether it fits to the strategic search fields. And if so, we take up the idea and we do a matchmaking to and try to find people inside Bosch who take up the idea and start to think about a possible use case and start to collaborate with the externals and maybe bring up a new idea and start a new business. And our job is not finished with matchmaking. We also facilitate the partnership because it could be different ways of working. And there could be also some frameworks in which this partnership starts. One could be the connectory, as Marco already pointed out, and two other programs could be the ones that my colleague Christian and my colleague Veronica will introduce later, because these are programs, for example, to help the partnership between Bosch and startups get going. And for you outside Bosch who are interested to approach Bosch, we have a gateway or a door at which you could have a sneak peek into Bosch. And I'd like to show you that. So I try to share my screen.
Okay.
Emily, could you help?
Yeah, it's in the button here below for share.
I do not see that button to share. Too bad.
Okay. Maybe I can share from my side here.
Okay. So could you now see my screen? Oh, let me have a look. Why doesn't it? Oh, I can. Now I can. Sorry, my fault.
Okay. If you want, I'm sharing here too. So if yours is not working, I have it open here.
Oh, but I can share now. So now it's fine.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So now you could see an internet page, a web page. And do you see that? I hope you do.
I see that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's great. So, sorry. If you want to approach Bosch and you do not know who to contact, then just look into the into the internet, and with innovate-bosch.com, you find the corporate gateway. And this is the first site at which you could submit your idea. And if you do so, you are requested first to state whether you're a company, a university, or already a supplier to Bosch. And if you click, for example, on a company, you could even choose whether you want to supply an innovation, whether you want to start any type of co-creation, or if you want to sell a patent, or if you want to be funded, for example, because you're a startup, you want to get in contract with our people from VC. Maybe Christian can talk about that a little bit later a bit. And if you then click next, you will be requested to, I'm sorry, I need to click something. You will be requested to describe your idea about what it is about, what makes it unique, whether it's relevant for Bosch, and you could attach, for example, your pitch slides. And if you do so, then all the information will come to my department. It is within the system. We will have a first look, and you can see it here, for example, the process. We will have a first look. We will find an expert who picks up the idea. And if an expert says, well, yeah, that fits to Bosch, then the matchmaking and the facilitating and the co-development will start. And you will receive a personal advisor who will take care for your idea and who will make sure that collaboration or co-creation works. And if you want to know on what topics we are looking, you will find the information on this web page again. So it is, for example, on connected mobility, it is on electrification, it is on smart home. So, and if you click on that, you get further information. But you could also see that people from inside are looking for people from outside to collaborate with, because these are campaigns we have published and at which people from inside Bosch are directly looking for brand new idea for people who like to co-create on particular topics, like, for example, automation, ECUs, or whatever. So please take a look. And if you have an idea and if you think it will match to Bosch, address it to Bosch and we will take care for it.
Very good. Thank you, Heike. I think this is a very interesting gateway because it's a general one, right? So anything you want to discuss with Bosch, you can go there and then we'll be able to direct it inside it. So
Right. If it's
Very
on
well.
and even if it's on straight green bananas, which is not mentioned on this
Yeah.
page, just address
You
it to
should
us.
check on the page if we have bananas there, and then you can apply, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but even if there are no bananas mentioned, just just send your approach, and we will check whether it
Yeah.
fits to Bosch, because there might be some topics behind which are not published yet, but
Mm.
they maybe deal with straight green bananas.
Very good. Thank you, Heike. Okay, now I'd like to invite Veronica to share with us what's about Startup Harbor.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Marco, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to present Startup Harbour today. Excited to be here, especially since I was physically present at the opening of Curitiba Connectory. So congratulations on the anniversary. I want to today share some details on our program Startup Harbour. And this is a very special program. We are an accelerator for deep tech startups focusing on Berlin. And we are financially supported by the European Social Fund and the state of Berlin. We offer a 6 months curriculum to the teams, including trainings, individual coaching, matchmaking, and co-innovation activities and workshops. And with the public funding, we are in this very lucky situation that we can also support the startups financially by providing a scholarship to them throughout the 6 months. So, which allows them for evaluation of their technologies, validation of their business models, and gives them the full freedom to focus on developing their venture to a successful startup. So what services do we offer to our teams? Well, first of all our program is focusing on the topics which are relevant to Bosch. So one of the main assets that we bring in is that we have defined focus topics where the startups can apply for, and these are relevant and backed by Bosch business units with the willingness to contribute to a collaboration, with the willingness to support the teams. And apart from these initial topics that we have also highlighted on our website, we of course offer then the evaluation and support of scouting, but we are also happy to have a collaboration here with Heike's team, who is supporting us in the scouting for talented founders who can apply to our team. We are connecting the business units with high potential startups, and we offer a 6 months curriculum full of trainings to the teams. So from a business model innovation workshop, a design sprint, and legal aspects of founding the company, they also learn obviously how to pitch. We support them also with setting up a collaboration, including contractual support to the business units, and promote, last but not least, the outcomes, because it's also important to give them visibility and a stage, and also celebrating successes. So what makes our program unique? You might wonder, what are the USPs? There are lots of accelerators. Well, first of all, we only allow for a limited number of hand-picked startups. So usually it's in between 5 and 7 startups maximum. The teams get direct introduction to experts at Bosch. And beyond that, we can introduce to selected customers and partners. We are happy that we have external partners officially joining this program. So last batch and the current one, we had also partnerships with external partners who are also open to provide, for instance, industrial use cases. What is also unique is due to the multinational organization Bosch being also visible in so many domains. We are active in so many domains. We can provide, of course, access to domain expertise, not only for mobility solutions, but also for industrial automation, for instance. We can also include consumer goods expertise, and last but not least, energy and building technologies. We run the program ourselves, which makes the matchmaking so much easier, the introduction to other colleagues at Bosch, but also to customers and partners. And last but not least, the curriculum is also very great. We have run 5 batches so far. We have continuously improved the program, and this is also an asset that we not only want to leverage within Berlin, but we successfully piloted also a regional program in Spain and Portugal. So I'm happy if you want also to discuss later on about the outcomes, about challenges, but let me also share some numbers with you. So far, as I mentioned, we have run 5 batches. We have screened more than 300 applications. We supported more than 30 startups and 100 participants throughout the program. And as a result, we could also capture some great benefits for the local startup ecosystem here. So we have seen that more than 130 new jobs have been created in the region. More than 8 million of euros have been also collected as seed investment. And the most exciting KPI for me is the number of startups, the portion of startups still actively running their businesses. You know that at the early stage, most startups fail, and usually the survival rate is very low. In our program, we have tracked survival rates of more than 80% for those startups who have exited the program 2 years ago. So that's a quite fantastic outcome of the collaboration. And I would like to encourage the audience today, if you want to join, follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or on Instagram. You can also reach out to us there to subscribe for our newsletter, because our newsletter recipients are also invited to join very special invitation-only events such as the demo days. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I think it's always inspiring to hear about how Startup Harbour is impacting the ecosystem. So you were with us during the opening 2 years ago, and it's nice to have you back. So thank you for sharing with us. And now for another perspective on how we can work with startups, I'll call here Christian Huttenheim to share about Open Bosch.
Hi, thanks for having me. Congrats to your anniversary. Thank you. So my name is Christian. I work for Robert Bosch Venture Capital, and I feel responsible for Open Bosch. Open Bosch is the venture client unit of the Bosch Group. We are an internal service provider, focusing on the business units and making partnerships with external startups easy. So it's about external startups only. We are not a department. We are a network with venture managers across all business units of Bosch, across all regions. And we are following the venture client process. It's maybe some of the audience know the venture client process. It's a highly sophisticated 5-phase process. I don't want to bore you with details. What's the core of this process is it follows the lean logic. It follows the pull principle. So venture clienting is about pulling demand-driven technologies and solutions from the external market to the Bosch business units. So it's about external startups only, and we are pulling those solutions. We are pulling startups. It's not about, we are not pushing startups. It's not about that I'm selling startups. Hey, I have a great startup business unit. Do you want to work with them? No, we're identifying requirements, collecting pain points in the business units. We are matching them with startups and conducting POCs, paying POCs, supporting the business units with tools and templates, with legal advice, and with purchasing support, and that's what we do. And we are measured by the business impact we pull in for the Bosch Group. And I'm happy that you invite me here, because I would love to talk about the trend we see that innovation is shifting from corporates to startups. And we see 4 trends that are supporting this thesis that innovation is shifting from corporate to startups, and it's important for me to talk about this so that the audience out there, external audience outside of Bosch, knows that Bosch is thinking this way, and that the internal audience, Bosch colleagues in the line, are knowing that we have this venture client service, a free service of Robert Bosch Venture Capital to the Bosch Group to support with startup in co-innovation. So I just mentioned the four trends we saw, the four trends we see, why this is important, what we do, why venture clienting is important. And the first is the technology change. We see a huge technology change. Open source, free code, cloud services. We see horizontal scaling, free tools and templates on business model innovation. And it became quite cheap and easy to launch a startup today. When in the 90s, you needed $5 million to found a startup. Today, you need a few thousand euros to do that. And we see 1.3 million new tech startups out there every single year. So this trend is massive, and we're supporting that. The second trend we see, which makes it important to have a venture client unit, is money. Interest rates are low. Money is cheap. Capital is moving to risky assets, and startups are flooded with money. Two figures on that. In the first quarter of this year, 2021, the first 3 months of this year, the global VC volume exceeded the total VC volume 2017. So four and a half years ago, $125 billion just in the first quarter. So we see massive startup funding. And in February 2017, we saw that the VC volume exceeded the corporate R&D spending on transformational projects. So we see that startups have much more budget than Bosch departments. We see startups with 20 people raising 200 million euro to solve a single problem. Which Bosch department of 20 people has that budget? So that's a massive trend we see, and that's supporting the venture client activities. The third trend we see is the organizational ambidexterity. So the two-handedness, right, Marco? The two-handedness of big corporations to be, on the one hand, very efficient and standardized, producing and serving your customers, and on the other hand, being innovative and disruptive and being the strongest competitor to your own business. And big corporations are not able to do that. They're struggling with this. Bosch is struggling with this. If you have a running business, if you have customers to serve, innovation is always second priority. And external startups are a great way to solve that. And the Bosch Venture Client Unit, Open Bosch, is supporting the Bosch internal units to bring them in, because startups are taking risky bets and have a head start when it comes to technology. That's the third trend we see. And the fourth trend we see is new work. I mean, people want to work independently and purpose-driven, and working in a corporate sometimes feel like being a small wheel in a big machine, right? So with successful startups, we see that more and more people want to work in startups. And that's why we see 1.3 million new tech startups out there. And now I talked a lot, sorry. We see that innovation is shifting from corporates to startups, and I would love to talk about startup co-innovation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christian, for sharing that. And I loved your insights on the changes that the ecosystem is having right now, because the way you mentioned, the ability to cooperate and to collaborate is becoming as important as the ability to develop new technology itself. Yeah. So it's getting even more intense. Exactly. That's a very, very, very nice insight. So I would like to call Heike and Veronica back here. So to go directly into the topic, I mean, no frills, no gobbledygook, anything. So what do you, and I think Christian started. So what do you think are the challenges that we are facing today? Let's open the curtains to the backstage.
I can start. Let me maybe.
If you can start, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. We are supporting POCs between startups and Bosch business units, right? And one challenge we often see is that roles within the Bosch teams, which have a justification, are stronger than others. For example, sometimes we have in POC teams Mr. Data Security and Mrs. Risk Aversity and Mr. Process Standardization, right? And those people, they have their justification. That's important. But within Bosch, they're really strong. And they are sometimes louder than other people like Mrs. Trust or Mr. Let's try this and Mrs. Commitment. And so to find a balance in this, that is really challenging. And why do I talk about roles and not people? Because I think it's an organizational challenge. We don't want to blame persons. If you put me into the function of the data security, I would act the same way those persons act, because that's their charge. That's what they're in charge for, right? So it's about roles and not persons. And we see that the roles in a highly big corporation with lots of functional separation are very difficult to balance, to bring in trust, openness, commitment, for trying out something new, to bringing in those people, right?
Yeah, and maybe I would add something from the other side, seeing it from the other side. So, yes, there is maybe a missing culture, not just to try something and even to take the risk to fail. Because even if you fail with something, you get results. So failing does not mean it is a success. It is a success because you learn how it will not work. So this is something people have to think about. And this is maybe also something the startups do, because they just pull up their sleeves and then they start off. And if it does not work, they find another way. But that does not fit to Bosch. And maybe there's the expectation side from outside that is also a challenge. Because if people approach us saying, I have a good idea for Bosch, then they think it is easy to match that with Bosch. But as you explained, Bosch is big. There are a lot of people having blockades in their head because they wouldn't like to take the risk. And on the other hand, the startups expect that this matchmaking is easy, and that does not work. Also, they expect that Bosch works the same way like startups do, and that is also not the case. So it needs some, let's say, compromise on Bosch's side and on the external side to understand the other person or the other culture or the other expectations, and to find a way in the middle to collaborate. And that is a challenge, because everybody has to step back a bit from his or her expectations to find the golden way in the middle. And this could differ from partnership to partnership. And this is the challenge, to find out what is the golden path.
And I would even like to add on this. So it's not only that the expectations are high, and that you want to embrace new partnerships, but the art of building partnerships is really very, very new to us. So basically, the overall maturity of managing strategic partnerships is low. And we can see that this not only in the relationship of corporate to startup, but also corporate to corporate. We used to be very competitive, doing our things on our own. Of course, we had a bunch of suppliers, but our CEO, Mr. Denner, nicely says, nobody can do IoT alone. So we all know that partnering will become one of the key capabilities in future. And yet we observe that the maturity to deal with partnerships in general, not only at Bosch, but also we had a survey with other companies across Germany. We saw that all of them were self-assessing their own capabilities, and the result was it's really, really low. So the partnering mindset is not there. The tools are not there. That's why we have run into some errors on our own. For instance, it's really a challenge to define your own role within a partnership. So we had startups who came to us and were convinced from the start that we would enter a co-development with a revenue sharing model. And if the other side perceives the startup more like a technology supplier, then obviously there's a mismatch in expectations. So we learned to early on formulate what kind of role do you actually see within this network of value creation. Are we talking about a supplier-customer role? Are we talking about a partnership? Are we talking maybe about who is the platform owner, who's the face to the customer? How will we actually split the efforts we put into a collaboration? And all these questions need to be answered. So we found that it's really important to be very transparent about your expectations in the beginning, to manage your expectations also, and to professionalize using the tools. So basically, I could say that nowadays in our workshops, we have a standard agenda when it's about the first time where we draft how this collaboration might look like, how, for instance, what happens after a POC. And this is great input then for our colleagues at Open Bosch, because depending on our work, they can then pick the right contractual artifacts and support this relationship.
Yeah, but we also learned about that. So Bosch learned. We now have tools. We just introduced a new partnership management tool, which helps us to get the transparency, which helps us to see who is dealing with whom and what is the outcome and what do the people learn. So this is one thing. And the second thing we learned is that we should not rely on our processes because it's the best way, because it's the Bosch way, and maybe to get rid of these 100% perfect ways of collaboration and getting everything done and find, let's say, an easy hands-on way to proceed. And we did that as well. So we learned a lot, but it took time. And we started, I don't know, 5 years ago, and now we have a real good, let's say, network with open-minded people, as you can see here, because we have the Connectory, we have Open Bosch, we have the startup Harbour, and we have Genesis, and we matched to collaborate. So we started to bring our network together and to exceed. And I think, yes, it is a challenge, and yes, it is hard to work on that, and yes, it needs a highly motivated team on both sides. But we managed a little bit to get better in the last years, I would say.
Yeah, especially the collaboration you just mentioned, Heike, this offering end-to-end services by joining forces in our programs is really beneficial. We saw a lot of synergies also with Connectories, with the Genesis team and with Open Bosch, and it was all for the benefit of the startups.
Yeah, but I would say not only for the startups, we also have partners from outside who are not startups, but also join in our however collaboration here.
Yeah, that's a good point, Heike. When I talk about or open innovation, I focus on startups, right? And you have a broad scope, including universities and suppliers, and I think it's a little bit like a startup-focused discussion. But what I really like in the cooperation with you guys is I think of you as a DJ. We are DJs. We have 2 discs, right? We have one disc is highly standardized and professional, and the other disc is a creative, innovative, disruptive. And to match them, to have one rhythm, to have them, and speed is important, right? In our process for innovation, speed is important. We don't want them to dance to the lower music played. We want them to dance to the high speed disc, right? And this is not easy to balance it in the whole environment. And I think that the cooperation so far was pretty smooth on this. I'm happy about it. Thanks.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think in the end, it's about the passion of creating something new, of trying new ways, of making it constantly better and improving also on our side. So I see, of course, that we learn a lot and we adapt a lot, and we have to be the brave ones, sometimes also celebrating successes, because in the end, to be honest, there are lots of people still in our organization who will not understand why we are now introducing a startup to them, for instance. So why do we partner, and why don't we do it on our own? So this not invented here syndrome is still very visible here. And that's why we have to be enormously cautious to not forget about celebrating successes and showing that actually it can work and it can be a great blueprint. Also our collaboration here. So why not having this end-to-end support of co-innovation more visible?
Yeah, and there are a lot of examples in which we have been successful with our collaboration. And there are even some examples for new Bosch products or new Bosch services which could not have been realized without any kind of collaboration with externals. So we very often do not talk about that, but there are a lot of examples we could show. But you're right, we do not celebrate that. We complain about what is not working, but we do not celebrate what has been working. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I think it's a great insight on what you mentioned, how the organization itself is having to see. We have to see ourselves differently because the roles are completely different, and then we have to change all the structures so that we are able to do this kind of new relationships that are more than just supplier customer relationship and that stuff. And I want to also to ask the three of you, what you guys think no one is talking about when they talk about open innovation, or what you don't hear enough when you see people discussing and then saying they do all the things. Say, okay, they're not talking enough about that. What do you think?
Well, we already talked about that. So
Okay.
Bosch says Bosch is innovative. And yes, in the past, maybe a lot of things came from the inside because there are smart brains at Bosch working. And now we want to be collaborative and collect and co-work with externals, as Mr. Denner said. And so there are a lot of people thinking of we have to do something with externals. But that's just the front end. But the back end means that let's say, Bosch organization should overcome this not invented here syndrome. And that there is a culture that means just try something, and if you fail, you have learned how it does not work, but you could use another way to be successful. But this is a cultural change that has to happen, and it is not like this. So it's not that Mr. Denner says, please now things different. It does not work. So you have to have time for this change. And last but not least, you must take the risk of spending time, money, effort on a topic. Maybe when you find out at a later day, at a later point, it does not work. But that you have to recount this not as success or not as a success. It is some kind of a success. And this is something nobody talks about, that you have to spend effort, that you have to spend time, that you have to spend money on that, and not being sure that it will be the next big business idea.
Very good.
And maybe to add on what nobody is talking about, when we talk to other programs frequently, we are celebrating exciting startups, exciting partners, and so on. And it feels like sometimes it's hard to distinguish what is innovation theater and where do we actually measure impact. So to be honest, from the beginning about the KPIs, so what exactly do I want to achieve and how are my current numbers with regards to achieving these KPIs should be the starting point.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. From my perspective, what is no one talking about is R&D budget. I mean, we have great initiatives here, but if you compare the budgets to classical inside-in innovation, that's still small, right? And to be honest, innovation doesn't happen just in labs, hubs, in corporate R&D departments. Innovation happens when a talent is attracted by a problem and has the commitment to solve it. And unfortunately, we see that happening more and more in startups and less in corporate functional divided structures. So I think no one is talking about incentives for entrepreneurial risks. No one is talking about how size of corporations are causing limitation because they cause functional separation, and functional separation is we lose the big picture through functional separation. So R&D budgets, which are very far away from our customer demands, right? Which are very far away from business impact, are still huge. And Bosch is a very proud engineering company, and we have great engineers. But I think so far we did not unfold the full potential of this R&D budget. Yeah.
Very good.
And maybe last point, there are, let's say, some emotions regarding collaborations with externals. Emotions like, if I am collaborating with an external and the external has an idea, then maybe it makes me look bad because I am the engineer within Bosch and I maybe should have had this idea. Yes. And now there's an external who tells me how it could work, and that makes me feel bad, and maybe my boss saying, you are not the smart guy I expected. So that's one emotion. It's a fear. And second, there is a fear on the company side, because if we invent everything on our own, it belongs to us. It is our IP right. And we decide what to do and how to handle that, and whether we produce something or whether we sell it or whether we keep it confidential. It is our home turf to do so. But if we collaborate with people, then it means that we have to give up this, let's say, position of strength, because we show what we don't know. We show that we need to also think about IP rights and think of who is taking which role in this ecosystem. And this is also something new, and we are not enough talking about this, that this change should happen, about the fears, about the emotions and how to handle them, and about the role Bosch takes in these ecosystems.
Great point, Heike. I would like to emphasize this. There's no career path for partnering with externals.
No.
If you want to do a career at Bosch, you need to develop something by your own and say, this is my product, right? If you tell the management, hey, I found someone who already invented it, that's not huge, right? So we need to shift there. There needs to be a career path for being. We had BCI once had a Smart Copy Award. This was tiny, but a great idea. So I think there needs to be career paths for enabling partnership with externals.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, plus there are some proof points that actually could measure the benefits. Like, for instance, how much time did you save by not doing it on your own, by not setting up a team and following all the Bosch guidelines in developing a product, simply by using what somebody else already invested time and effort in development and validation. And we could track these numbers far more often. We don't consequently track them, and this should be changed, I think.
Yeah, but that may be a good KPI. How much money do you save by collaborating with externals? How much did you reduce your time to market by collaborating with externals? So if these aren't KPIs, then it becomes much more, let's say, acceptable to collaborate. But that means we need to change our goals and our targets.
Yeah. I'm loving this discussion. Thank you so much for sharing that, guys. And I have some questions here from the audience that I think may fit with this last topic that we discussed. Here's a question from Guilherme Rocamora. Considering the big innovation landscape at Bosch, what can we do to have a complete alignment among the Bosch innovation areas, inside out and outside in?
Well, the question is there ever such a thing like a complete alignment? To be honest, sometimes you just have a lucky chance and it turns out to be something which is which the other person likes. So sometimes also this matchmaking is more like a coincidence, and that's also good. So I would not even go that way and try to have a complete alignment. But what we definitely can do, and we are about also to institutionalize this internally, is that we share the focus topics, because the focus topics, for instance, for the startup Harbour, are same relevant for Heike's network and for the Open Bosch network, and for the Connectory network as well, because I think, to be honest, if we have a perfect match on these focus topics, the Bosch side wouldn't care if it's now a solution of a European startup or one of Latin America. So I think we need to share these much more, to have one center of truth for these focus topics. So where we actually know they are backed by commitment, they are backed by money, and by the willingness to collaborate with either a startup or a corporate. So there should be actually a bit more transparency on where we actually see opportunities for collaboration.
Yes, I agree with this, and I like the question on the complete alignment. We don't want centralization of innovation activities, right? So the complete alignment at the end is about the awareness of the toolbox. We have with the Startup Harbour, with Genesis, with Open Bosch, and with other departments, we have several tools that are dedicated to one process. And at the end, it's about being informed, that we on our side manage to inform our colleagues what is the toolbox, which tools are in the toolbox, and that the colleagues are aware of using the right tool for the right incentive, right? For the right intention.
Yeah, and that it's maybe not only a global approach, but that there should also be some kind of, let's say, small differences in the regions, because you could not maybe handle a startup in North America in the same way as you could do it maybe in South America, or as you could do it in China, because there are different, let's say, legal spaces in which you collaborate. There are different cultures in which you should collaborate, and maybe it's not the big Bosch, but also some kind of a daughter from Bosch who collaborates. So it is not only that the big Bosch itself has this toolbox, but it's also known to all the regions, to the development and strategic departments in the regions, to the people, what is possible if I take this tool, and that they know about the tool and that they start using the tool. Independent whether there is a big organization saying now you have to, because of being motivated, because of understanding that it is a benefit to collaborate, and just try, unwrap their arms and start off.
And I think it's a very comment about the different regions here, because we also have a question on that, and it's from Nara. So she'd like to know what they think about doing open innovation in a global scope versus local scope. I think it's what you already started to mention. So Bosch is huge. So what's your hint for a local ambassador? So I'm included in this question too.
Yeah. Good question. At least from my side, I can say we as the Genesis organization, we have the local ambassadors. And Nara is our ambassador in Curitiba. So she is the person on site, and we have Tamiresh in Campinas. We are present in South America, in Mexico, in North America, in Asia Pacific, in Europe. And we have people on site. And for me, it is important to have them, because they're talking the same language. They're in the same, let's say, cultural, legal environment. So they might know much better about what could be done and how collaboration could happen than me sitting in Stuttgart and having, I don't know, any idea. And therefore, it is necessary to have these local ambassadors to which the people from outside Bosch could easily talk to. And also who could, let's say, act as a moderator between Bosch and the local externals.
Yes. Who said every business is local? I don't remember. So speaking for, I think that's a good point. Speaking for Open Bosch, we don't care whether from which location the pull comes from, as long as it's a pull. And the pull starts with the customer demand of the Bosch business unit and with the requirements for bringing in a startup with business impact, right? So we have global databases, but at the end, the startups who log in the databases, who inform about themselves, are local. And it's about the pull, the local pull and the commitment for business impact through external startups. So from Open Bosch, everything is basically local, but the support we offer, we of course have regional teams. Together with Heike, we are now setting up our team in China, and so the local requirements on startups they differ, but at the end the pull is local, right?
And there's a question to that regarding whether there is a success story. There is one that started local. So, for example, it was a Japanese enterprise approaching Bosch, saying, "You're producing pumps, injection pumps for diesel engines and gasoline engines, and I have a small pump. It's typically used in aquarium," and that was Asia Pacific, a company from Asia Pacific. First of all, the Bosch people said, "Well, aquarium, we do not produce any aquarium. We don't need an aquarium pump." But it was a very tiny pump. And then we started to talk to them to get more information about this pump and how it works. And this is what the people did in Asia. And then we took up this idea and we started to approach people. And we started to approach people in Germany, in Asia Pacific, and all the other countries. And it took time. Yes, it took time. It took 3 years. But we finally found someone who said, "I need this pump. Otherwise, my product could not be realized." And we realized that pump, that this product, it's a system to analyze the breath for people who have a disease with their lungs. And it's a handheld device. It received a Red Dot Award, and it was just possible to realize this with the help of an Asia Pacific enterprise producing aquarium pumps. So there are these kind of examples. But it also shows it takes time. To get to the market, to enter the market from the very, very beginning, it was a 5 years distance.
Very nice example. Yeah. And I think we have one more question here from Jeff. So what would be your dream open innovation scenario for 3 years ahead? So now talking about the future.
Well, I wish there was something like an AI empowered matchmaking process where you can actually bring together what was lacking with the parts of the puzzle. So that's just me dreaming, but actually to have a bit more tools that support these requirements and offering matching. I think it's still, we have to do a lot of internal marketing to even collect these topics, to be aware of them, to then promote them, make them visible to the outer world on various platforms, and to have a bit more automation would be helpful. But that's
very good. Very good.
Challenge of filling the next batch with the fitting startups. So.
Yeah.
Very good.
Difficult question. So the target for in 3 years, I just speak for Open Bosch. That would be probably 500 POCs per year between startups and Bosch business units. So Open Bosch was founded end of 2018. We conducted about 100 POCs so far. We will have more than 45 this year. Conducting 500 for a corporation for like Bosch with 400,000 employees, it's not a lot. That's probably too few. Still, 500 would be great. That's what we're targeting to in the next 2 years.
And to get there, I would add that it becomes self-evident to think about collaborations from the very early phase. So if somebody really starts off with the idea, let's take the straight green bananas, saying, well, I don't try to do it myself because I get incentive because I do it on myself, because I do it on my own. But it's the other way around. So it is self-evident to start and look into the external market to see whether there are any people who could join my ecosystem to get these straight green bananas realized. And that would be my idea of in future, and that it even be an incentive for that. That would be great.
Yes.
Very good.
And may I, Marco, may I add one point to the target I just mentioned, just to avoid any questions in the comment field for a POC as a purpose in its own. A POC is not a purpose in its own, but so with the 500 POCs, we want to have an equivalent business impact. That's the target. It's about business impact for Bosch and their our customers. That's the focus. Yes. Thanks for letting
Very
me
good. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I think we're about to wrap up here this event. So I would like to ask you, what would be your final considerations and message that you would like to leave?
Oh, so maybe.
Oh, you already left.
Partnerships within whatever role you have within your organization. Just think about the question: how can you leverage partnerships? How can you make the impact measurable? How can you fight for this becoming like a KPI, a target within your organization?
Yes, I would say give us your pain points, and we support you with finding a solution.
Always in pitching mode.
Yeah.
Okay. To be honest, I have nothing to add except of stay curious what the other party offers.
Very good. Very good. So, and also for everybody to take a look on the links that we posted in the comment section for each one of them, and then you can enter on their website and interact with everyone. And on behalf of the Curitiba Connectory, thank you so much for joining this event. I think it's always inspirational to see you guys, the work you're doing and the impact we have here in the region. And I think that's it. Hope to see you in other events.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you again for this invitation, Marco.
Thank you.
All the best to Brazil.